Do you spend a lot of time on social media, posting, viewing content, especially content from your friends? Many think it negatively affects young people only, and while it does have an effect on young people, I contend that it has an equally negative effect on older people as well. In particular, us chapter 3ers. Comparison is the thief of joy. We're going to get right into that today with me, Chris Spinner, on Live from the Wish House. Grab your coffee. Come on in. Most people I know talk about feeling an overall sadness every day. Most people feel themselves having a touch of depression. Now, I'm not talking about depression that's clinically diagnosed or is conditional or is something that you've lived with all your life or even something that's been brought about because of a catastrophic incident in your life, something that's being treated by a professional. I'm not talking about that kind of depression. I'm talking about simply feeling sad. And most people I know are either talking about it or showing visible signs of sadness. It's stealing their motivation, their feeling of self-empowerment. It's stealing their joy. Now, why is that? And what can we do about it? Sounds like time for a little Chrislosophy. I was recently chatting with a friend about this and have come to the conclusion that our overall sadness, that our overall discontent, that our overall lack of motivation has its roots in inner disappointment. And I think that the longer we live, the more chances we have for focusing on disappointments, the more chances we have for living in a disappointed state, the more chances we have for remaining in the rut of disappointment. And I don't recall conversations surrounding sadness throughout most of my life. I feel like this is a 10 to 15 year phenomena. And I think it's gotten worse in the past 10 to 15 years because of a little something called social media that has informed the sadness, exacerbated the depression, and simply fueled the disappointment. Now, as a person who content creates on social platforms, it seems kind of crazy that I would be sitting here talking about how social media is not good for what ails you. But I think we're using it to our detriment. We have handed over our power to social media. I think we've handed over some of our own sense of self, some of our own genuineness, some of our own authenticity, our own comfortability in our own skin. We don't even realize it, but we're allowing it to rule how we think. We're giving it permission to make us feel okay or not okay. And we're experiencing it on a daily loop because by and large, our friends who are on social media are unfortunately trapped in the same rut. We've allowed ourselves to be wandering lost in a wasteland of things that aren't real. We spend most of our time on social media wishing that we had somebody else's life and secretly feeling as if we failed at our own. We're trying to prove to others that we have a life that's equal to the next, which isn't even real. All the while, we're trying to feel relevant. We're constantly crying out, look at me, I'm just as good as the next guy. But simultaneously, we're posting contrary memes saying, oh, we don't care what anybody else thinks. Or I've reached the age where I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm a free spirit. I'm all about the fun and grabbing the gusto of life. And I'm telling you, I cry BS. I don't believe those sentiments are real at all. And I think that the daily cycle, the daily dose, the daily drink of being on social media isn't helpful. It isn't beneficial. We think it's a place of connection that's going to lift our spirits, but in the end, how we're using it is just making us sad. For an excess of 10 years, we've been engaging in a daily reporting. We log onto our social media and we just kind of throw out a little something that we feel is worthy of showing, a piece of us that we feel comfortable sharing, a piece of us that we want to believe represents who we are. And we hand it over to the masses and say, see, this is really who I am. But what we're really doing is creating a persona. We're creating our own little brand. And for the first minute we put it out there, we feel good about it. And the first time somebody likes it, we get the infamous hit of dopamine. And then we feel good, but it doesn't last. And it doesn't last because it's vapid. It doesn't have roots. It doesn't have a foundation. There's almost a desperation in it. It's become a subconscious habit laced in desperation. Oh, what do you think of that? And what are we subconsciously desperate about? Well, for chapter 1 and 2, it's that we're not good enough. We're not far enough along in life. That we don't have what others have, which is a lot of posting fallacy, by the way. You know what you're seeing on social media is a highlight reel, right? You know it's a snapshot. But I don't know. Do we really know that? Once we see all that, serious imposter syndrome can set in, and away we go. Disappointment and sadness. For chapter 3ers, we're subconsciously desperate about reaching a certain age, that time is running out, and we haven't been the person we wanted to be, or just discovered that we want to be. And no one will know that. We are so formidable. But scrolling around, we don't feel formidable. We just feel disappointed and sad. You know, there's a popular AI activity on Facebook where you can morph yourself into a younger version of yourself as well as another identity. So you look like a younger version of yourself, but you're a movie star or you're a cowboy. And it's a bit of whimsy and it has some silliness and fantasy, but I think there's way more to it. Yes, it's fun or even funny to see ourselves as something else. But I think that somewhere in the deep recesses of our minds, we wish we were that. Well, maybe not the cowboy, but we like being someone else. And that AI moment fills a need in us to reinvent, to take a chance, to chat a new course. And all we have to do is click. And our friends like it too. They support it. Oftentimes I see chapter 3 or women post it and their friends are giving credence to it by saying, you look gorgeous. I mean, they mean it. You look gorgeous. And we're saying, thank you. But this isn't how we look. And you're probably laughing along with me now because as I'm saying this out loud, it does sound hilarious. But if you're one of the people that has fallen prey to it, I don't want you to think I'm being hard on you. But let's recognize now that the silly little game is a little piece of what's adding to the sadness puzzle. It's a little hint of what's adding to the age mindset. You might not realize it, but there's a comparison piece in there. It's stealing your joy. And we need all the joy we can muster to remind ourselves that we are formidable and that we can do whatever we want, that age doesn't matter. Stop seeing yourself with number limits. It's not too late. It's never too late. It's going to take a little time. But let's start. Stop believing what you see. Stop trying to prove to others who you are and actually give yourself permission to know who you are and realize you don't have to keep reminding everybody who you are. Just be, go, do. If you want connection, start a group. One that meets and holds space and simply talks. Not a go out to have a dinner and a drink group. That's a different dynamic. I'm talking about a how are you group, a group that inspires you with conversations that will nourish you, a sharing group, one that you don't post about, one that is real and deep and genuine. That's connection. And that real connection will give you real validation, and I will guarantee no sadness. Begin to cut some of the social media cord that tethers you to an unhealthy loop and use it simply as a virtual bulletin board, like a collage, what you'd like to share, like refrigerator pictures. Here's my closing thoughts. If you recognize yourself in this episode, if you're feeling a touch of sadness, if you're stuck in comparison, if you're feeling disappointment, if you're sharing what you want to be instead of living who you want to be, then I'm going to be kind and remind you today that you are enough, that you are formidable. You are someone that someone wants to get to know. You can't change the past, but there's no time like the present to give yourself the opportunity to find the success you didn't have before today. Stay present. Create a life you love. There's a quote from Mark Twain. 20 years from now, You will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. So throw off the bowline, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sail. Explore, dream, keep away from the people who try to belittle your ambitions. And now, in the words of Chris Spinner, make sure those people aren't you. We'll get into it a little more next on Live from the Wish House.